Pleasure's mine. Welcome to Jog Bay.
What we wanted to do this morning is talk a little bit about Daiwa's Saltiga series of reels. The Saltigas, most of us are well aware of from the spinning side, with some, we can pretty well easily say industry-leading spinning reels and the technology incorporated therein. But for a lot of us old salts, when we think about a Saltiga, we think about the old Star Drag Saltiga reels, which were introduced probably 2004 or so, and were on the market for a pretty long period of time. But Daiwa did all in their power to slow the sales of the pieces by raising the price, and then finally those pieces went away because they couldn't be justified by a rate of sale standpoint. But they were the nicest machined reels that had been produced up until that time, I feel, and I think a lot of other people would too. The old Saltiga Star Drags were great. And we were really sad to see them go, and really happy to see them come back. And they came back following that same execution. These are manufactured in Korea, in Daiwa's factory, and the Saltiga Star Drags are still the nicest Star Drags on the market, in my opinion. There are some great star pieces, some newer technology, some lighter weight pieces, but from an overall machining standpoint, drag standpoint, the Saltigas are exceptional pieces. When Daiwa came in with their Leverdrag 2 speeds, in single speed product, I guess, maybe 8 years ago on the Saltiga series, my first feel was I knocked on them and it sounded like nobody was home. They were kind of a little bit light on the metal. As it turns out, they were produced at a different factory, not the same factory as the Star Drags. And that maybe accounted for the differences in terms of the production quality. Again, in my estimation, they weren't up to the Saltiga name by comparison to the Star Drags and the spinning reels. Well, for 2020, that changed. Daiwa introduced a new line of Leverdrag reels, both in single speed and in 2-speed form. And that's why I needed to bring Sergey over here to tell us how those things are different than other pieces that are on the market and where they shine. Okay, so on the right side of the screen are the Star Drags, on the left side are the Leverdrags, and standing above it all is Sergey. Okay, so what can you tell us about these pieces? Specifically, you can start with the Stars or go to the Levers, whatever you feel.
I mean, the Stars are some of the nicest reels on the market. As far as machining quality and all of that goes, they're really hard to beat. I mean, as far as feel alone, I don't think there's a Star Drag that really matches them. You pick one up, you turn the handle, and you realize that there's a big difference between these and some of the other reels on the market. Not that they're worse or anything like that, but these are just a step above as far as just the quality overall. The smaller reels are a direct descendant from the Japan side, so they have these two sizes are mag sealed versus the bigger sizes are not. For saltwater use, it's not quite as useful on these, just because you get a lot of saltwater buildup and it does kind of mess with the bearings a little bit. But for kind of bait jigging and other uses, the smaller reels are great. I've got a little 10 myself. Oh, there we go. 10 size, and this one actually comes with a auto engage, which maybe that's for another video, but these guys are just really nice. Free spool is great, probably one of the better free spooling Star Drags out there. They are on the heavier side because they are a bigger frame reel, but you can tell that they actually machined the left side plate down a little bit just to keep it more palmable. But they are all machined aluminum, so it's kind of hard to beat. Okay, so no real changes in the Star Drag reels this year versus the last two. They are what they are, which is really nice. The Lever Drags are where things kind of changed. So what can you tell us there? Well, the Lever Drags did receive a pretty big update. I mean, a lot of the internals have changed and been improved based on criticisms from the last generation. They made some big changes. Kind of the first noticeable one is obviously the bigger handles on the bigger reels, and that's just a more useful design. Another major change is the addition of a second dog. So they're all double dog reels as well as an air reverse bearing. And then that's just going to add a lot more durability to the reel for saltwater use, especially on the bigger size reels. Another improvement over the last generation, especially, they had some complaints about a part actually stripping the frame of the reel where the cam sits, which actually would make the drag inconsistent. So they made a big improvement in that. They actually made that part much larger, so you get more surface area to keep it from stripping. So that's a big improvement. They just overall feel much nicer and much more like the Star Drags versus some of their other reels. The machining quality is top notch. They free spool like pretty much no other. I can't find another Leverdrag reel that will do the same, just as far as ease of use and free spool overall. You can see that the spool actually is stable, just because there's very little resistance.
Well, might as well
There you go. You want
see how that does. Yeah.
And along with that, they make many more sizes now this time around. The last generation kind of was limited in the sizes they were making. This time, their single speeds and two speeds have many models. The smaller sizes start, on the single speed with a 10 and go up to, I believe, a 50 or 60 even. And then the two speeds start with a 15, which is the smallest size, and then go up all the way to a 60, which is much bigger than the previous generation 60 and some of the other sizes they've had. And just overall, they're going to be much better reels for saltwater use, just because they've been upgraded on the internals. They're going to be much more solid, much more reliable than before. More drag as well. So it's just going to have a lot more stopping power. They're going to be probably one of the smoothest lever drags on the market, and they do command a higher premium price point because of that.
I do like what they've done on the handle, because it is counterbalanced. So
Yes.
it's always oriented the right way.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a nice meaty grip. It cants out. I don't know if that's 12 degrees or 15 degrees, but very, very nice as far as the shape goes. That way, nice piece.
Yeah, that came over from their Japanese Saltiga Star Drags. So the slopish jigging side would actually have that same handle. So even on the smaller little 10 size and 15 size, they had that bigger handle.
Wow.
Because even there for smaller stuff, they know comfort. So a smaller little handle is really not that useful for
Now
power.
we've had some inquiries and some sales of the reels going
Yeah.
back to Japan.
Yeah.
Are the two speeds available in the Japanese market, or
I don't
did they
believe
make those
I don't
for ours?
believe the lever drag reels are sold in Japanese market. Lever drag reels are really limited there. They just don't sell them. It's not so much that they don't work. It's that they're just not popular. Most of the people there will choose a Star Drag over anything else. So even the Japanese made reels, just sometimes they just go for the overseas market only. But we have had probably a dozen or so reels sold already, going over to Japan. So, they've recognized the quality
The
already.
Japanese guys like them.
Yeah.
Too. You first feel off those reels, and cosmetically, when you look at them, you can tell these are coming out of that same factory,
Right.
As the Saltiga Stars, and that says a lot right there. Warranty-wise, Daiwa has had to compete a little bit, I
Yes.
think, on the warranty side.
A little bit more than they have before, but they do offer a 5-year kind of executive Saltiga warranty style. So they'll basically, they'll send you a return label. It'll be a 2-day express, so they're going to get the reel and get it back to you within a week. Everything's going to be free of charge for 5 years. And
Wow. So even servicing, like your
servicing,
annual service
absolutely.
of the reel, they'll
Yes.
take care of all that.
Yes, they'll take care of all of it. Especially if something were to go wrong.
Is that everything in the Saltiga line?
So far, that only applies to the the newer line, so the 2020 reel, so the Saltiga spinners and the Saltiga lever drags will also have the same treatment. The Saltiga Star Drags aren't under the same plan, but they're basically exactly the same warranty. So it's 5-year, and they will do all the things mentioned in it. Just they don't fall under the Saltiga kind of service that they created
I
this
think we
year.
can say thanks to Okuma and the Makairas,
Right,
for
yeah.
pushing that envelope, because everything used to be 1 year, in this industry, and Okuma made it a 5-year program on their high-end gear, and that pushed Accurate first to double their warranty to 2 years, and now we've got Daiwa doing the same with the high end.
It's great to see some more support for the product, especially stuff that's very high end, very expensive. I mean, it makes sense for them to really take care of you for spending so much.
I've got a dumb question
investing
for
in
you, and I don't know if you know the answer yet.
Sure.
We've got lugs. Can they be reversed?
They're not reversible. They have plugs inside them.
Oh, okay.
As far
I
as
guess
I'm
that was an easy one. Okay, so you've got the plugs to go with.
Yeah.
Drag performance on these guys, on the lever drags, at least the specs that I'm seeing, on the small sizes, the drag is 15.5 pounds. Yeah, at strike, bumping up to 26 pounds as we go all the way up, to full. And then when we move over to the 35 size, 35, this is going to be what?
Don't have a 35.
Yeah, I don't have a 35. Okay, so I had a 35, a 40, and the 50. So that brings these guys in. 28.5 pounds worth of drag is strike, and then they'll button down at 40 pounds. And then on the big dog, when we get to the 60, well, there we've got 31 pounds of drag on the 55 and the 60, and they'll button down at 45. So 31 pounds buttoning down to 45.
Yep.
Inches per crank, we're in the 40s. Even on the big stuff, it's 46.5 inches. On the small stuff, we're down at 40 inches per crank on the lever drags. You mentioned the single speeds are available in the 10 through the 60 size.
Yep.
The 2 speeds on the 15 through the 60s. And gear ratios, I guess that's the other. The small reels,
Yes.
you've got a 6.3, and then that drops down to 3-to-1. So 3-to-1 for the smaller reels. That's really some good power.
Yeah.
On the mid-size reels, the 35, 40, and 50, you've got almost 6-to-1, 5.8-to-1, and that drops down to the same 3.1 gear ratio. And then on the two bigger pieces, the 55s and the 60, you've got 5.2 gear ratio on the high, and it drops down to 2.3 on the low. So really good cranking power on the low end. You're not less than 2, but you're darn close to 2-to-1. 2-to-1's a good place to be at 100-pound line, 80-pound line, even 60-pound line. That's our head-turning gear ratio.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are stainless gears as well. Unlike some of the competition in the market in the same size that Daiwa was going after, they don't use brass gears on the lever drags. They use stainless, and they're more powerful gears versus some other reels out there.
And back on the Stars, you're on.
And the Stars will have brass gears. Again, you're not.
Okay.
You're in a high gear ratio. You're not putting a whole lot of cranking power through the reel. So the brass makes it much more, a little bit more smooth as far as the feel, which is more preferable for that kind of angler on that side versus a big game kind of reel.
Okay. Now, side question.
Yes.
You've got your little.
Yes.
That's a 10.
It's a 10. Yes,
That's
it's a 10.
You've got your piece, and you have wound up doing a few little modifications to yours.
Yes.
And that was done, why? Just because? Or
it was more of a, give it a try kind of deal. So in the overseas market, the Saltiga Star Drags actually have an auto engage feature. So when you turn the handle, the actual clutch will pop. So instead of having to do it manually, you can just turn the handle like a bait caster. So it's useful for some applications, really not useful for others. Obviously for casting, that'd be a completely useless feature because it's gonna flip the handle and then you're gonna lose your jig or whatever. And even for jigging, guys do tend to kind of underhand lob a jig out there. So that can, if it does flip, you could break your line, break your rod. But for most applications, I mean, it's a nice feature to have. Just makes it easier.
But that would be on the Japanese, or you get the Japanese parts to.
Yeah, so all it is 3 parts, and Daiwa even has them in the schematic. So if you go through your schematic on the 10 and 15, you'll see what parts you need. There's 2, a little gear, the actual slide plate, and then a little spring that tensions it.
Maybe that one we should do as a video for those guys that are interested in seeing.
Yeah, we can make something happen there.
The hot rod. Okay. Well, thanks for the time. Thanks for showing the reel, Sergey.
Yep.
And thanks for visiting our website and our YouTube channel. Mark and Sergey out until we return with a little bit more on maybe the Saltiga Stars for jigging application. Oh, question for you.
Yes.
Is there another one of these lever drags that is more oriented towards jigging?
They do have a 35 jigging single speed version that's going to be coming a little bit later. That one's scheduled to be released a little bit later, probably in the next month and a half or so. But that one's going to be narrower, so it's if you've ever seen a 35 size Daiwa, it'll be narrower than that.
Oh, so skinnier than like
Skinnier than the regular 35, and it's going to have less line capacity, which again for jigging it's not as important depending on what you're doing.
Along the lines of accurate with that 500 narrow.
Similar to like
jigger.
a 500 narrow, or tall and narrow reels are useful for that. You don't have to guide the line on as much, so it's going to be a useful piece for some people and for some applications.
Okay, next topic.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the time, and check back again.
Thanks for watching.